You don't have the server yet.
Just mute out. Just mute out. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. Billy, mute up. He's going to pull the server in.
Give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another?
Extra big-ass fries.
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase. I'm sorry you had
Come on. Let's get some starting.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, and above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack specials. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What are we doing live? It goes in the toilet.
Hi there, this is Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot. I'm on Revolution Radio, Friday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Time or 10 p.m. Eastern Time in Studio B. Listen live every Friday night. Whistleblower Radio, revealing the truth behind the matrix, one whistleblower at a time. Join me on Revolution Radio.
Not of sense or of humanity, but just blind. A place where time moves backwards and infinity moves inside out. An interdimensional Mandelbrot set between the abyss of man's ego and the summit of the one self. Fear, loathing, corruption, peace and love, order out of chaos. Revolution Radio. It is Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern, and we welcome you to Stealth Beyond Reason with your host, Eric Blood.
In the world I see, you're stalking elk through the damp canyon forest. You'll climb the vines that cuts the wrist of the Sears Tower at Rockefeller Center. You'll look down and you'll see tiny figures pounding corn, laying strips of venison in the abandoned carpool lane of some abandoned superhighway. Anyways, folks, good morning. This is Eric Blood here on the air with Revolution Radio, listener-supported freedomslips.com. So, again, please give us some money. You're back with Monsanto Delta Unit Autism Obedient Worker number 2. Number 2, or number 1. I ordered you to go take a number 2. And now we'll tell you what to think. Be a good nuclear citizen. Work, earn, buy. Look, listen, kneel, pray. Remember, I hate old things. I want only new things. If it's broken, don't fix it. Remember that you can declaw your cat simpler with Fukushima Frankentuna. It may cause bleeding of the eyes and anus, and your cat may experience claw rot. But that might go a little easier on you when you're scratching him on the head, and he might not claw you in the legs so bad. But remember, your cat is tasty to the last meow, and that this product now comes with regurgitated artificial furball flavoring. And remember that if your pooch has too much energy and he's smarter than you, that you can level out the playing field and dumb your doggy down with Monsanto's Franken Beast processed beaks and claws that'll have him traumatized and crying in the corner in a New York minute. And if you scan by now with your RFID implantable biochip, you can secure your free glow-in-the-dark Fukushima Reactor 4 Frisbee. Little Rex 84 will never be the same. So anyway, it's going to be a lot easier getting these Fukushima, the Fukushima Franken cookie for your kids, your little baby goy goats, right? Because the radiation is here. That's right, Fukushima radiation is here, and everybody's in denial about it. Everybody, at least, you know, that great system that we have been the Borg absorption that we've been tuned in to worship via the Gwen towers, or ground wave area network towers, that keep everybody going to school. I go to the university. It's great. I mean, I just don't understand what's wrong with everybody, you know. Everybody is anesthetized. Everybody is sitting in their home. Everybody is waiting for something to happen. Not everybody, but, you know, with something like, I think it's somewhere upwards of about 900 children per half hour or per hour or something. It's probably more than that. It's back when I used to hang out with Ted Gunderson. He used to tell me what the actual figures were of how many children disappear like every minute. And, you know, I remember when he told me, all I could think was, why isn't everybody in America out in the street, you know, with a gun and a sign and a torch, pissed off, and doing something about it, you know? And, hey, I'm not out there with a gun, a sign, and a torch, pissed off, doing something about it either. But back then I was. And more or less, I guess I sort of am. I'm doing this radio broadcast, and I'm doing the best I can, and having a hard time myself. But aren't we all, right? Everybody's feeling the crunch, the pinch, the eternally, the hobnailed boot eternally stamping in the face of humanity, according to Eric Blair, otherwise known as George Orwell. Well, anyway, it is 9:06 a.m. on the west coast here, where the Pacific Ocean meets the land, and the Fukushima radiation meets the air, water, sky, and food supply, and I really do feel bad for those Japanese. Although it's interesting, the Japanese government, I heard, was offering a bunch of homeless people in Japan some sort of, I know they don't have like a minimum wage there, I'm told, but they're offering them basically some minimum pay level, some lower pay grade. You know, oh, we'll pay you this crappy wage to kill yourself and go clean up a Fukushima Reactor 4 or whatever, you know, or Fukushima reactors, I think it's 1, 2, and 3 or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, I when it all happened so long ago, seems just like it was yesterday, but I don't recall the details except for that I know it's here, and that anyway. So yeah, I don't understand how so much. Well, I do understand how so much could be going wrong, and so many people could be anesthetized and not doing anything about it. The ground wave area network towers have the top 10 inches of the tower is reserved for the federal government, and they don't tell you why or what they're doing with that 10 inches of it, but they do have a device on top of it, and it seems that they are using that device to ultimately mind control people, and that's just one of the tools they use. They use television and other things. Folks, you can look this stuff up. You can look up stuff about Gwen Towers. You can look up stuff about TV being used for mind control. Why do you think Congress actually decreed that everything would be digital? I mean, it took a congressional mandate to force all the cable companies to go digital, so that now you can't have just like a digital TV and pick up stations. You can't use air anymore. You can use air, but you still have to plug in a cable in the variant manner. You can't just use an antenna only. Anyway, what's the point? I mean, you can use a satellite dish and get the feed straight from the satellite, where you can see the newscaster picking his nose, saying the F word, being really cruel to his assistants, and talking about how stupid everybody is, and then he comes on the air and acts like he's your friend. I've actually seen footage like that, so that's why I'm mentioning it. Anyway, I'm babbling on in this Babylon, and this is Babylon, I believe. It seems the Israelis and the American government believe this is New Jerusalem. It's, or at least Washington D.C. is New Jerusalem or something, and I see it as New Babylon. But anyway, so it's January 8th, the year of our Lord, 2014. Who the heck is this Lord anyway? The landlord, right? So,
Kumodi, brother.
So I got here we got some guests with us today. We got Billy Hayes with us. Billy's an interesting character, and we're going to get around to talking to him about who he is, where he comes from, and what he's about. I want to give people a call-in number, the Studio A call-in number line, which we are on Studio A live on freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio. Please give us money. This broadcast is with Eric Flood. My broadcast is known as Stealth Beyond Reason, and the call-in number is 347 area code 688-2902. Again, that's area code 347-688-2902. And we've also got GerrBeaR with us. Ger is my producer and friend, and has been instrumental in assisting with the situation of producing this broadcast and helping me get guests on here and such things like Billy Hayes, and making new friends like Billy and others. We've also got a caller here, Jason, and right now I'd like to get to asking Billy to introduce himself. Billy, why don't you introduce yourself, buddy? You with us, bro?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know how long.
Yeah, right. We'll see how long Billy can stay with us, because there's no telling what kind of shenanigans they'll pull to knock Billy off the air or microwave Billy. Billy, you live in microwave, don't you?
Yep. I have to interlink from somewhere else to maintain any communication with the internet.
So, Billy, if I can get down to the nitty-gritty, I'd like to ask, upon this land, which state were you born?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Well, that's all right. We'll move on then.
What are you? Are you with the government? Now, wait a minute.
No, I'm your doctor.
Yeah.
And the doctor don't even know where I was born. What the hell you got? But that's not right, guys.
I'm your gynecologist. I'm your neurologist.
You're a neurologist.
You're a neurologist.
Well, just then You tried to prove to me you were my proctologist, and I ain't going there.
I'm your urologist, theologist, geologist.
No. You're not going to ask me my social security number. You're not going to ask me where I was born.
You don't have a social.
Actually,
You're not social.
I only asked you that question just to give listeners some background on you. That's fine. We don't have to deal with those questions.
I will tell you, I grew up on Eglin Air Force Base.
Okay.
Florida. Okay?
Which is based where? Florida?
Eglin Air Force Base, Florida.
And Billy, you received military training at a very young age, did you not?
That's affirmative. I started my military education at 12 years old.
And even before 12 years old, you had an experience where you saw the famous Lee Harvey Oswald, did you not?
That's affirmative. 1959, he was at Eglin Air Force Base when I was a dependent. He was invited over to the house for dinner with my dad, who was his NCOIC.
His NCOIC?
I've seen the picture. I've seen that picture of that young man with Billy.
Yeah, I was in Civil Air Patrol back in the early 60s, and so was Lee Harvey Oswald. He was also in charge of the encampment at, I'm trying to think of the name of the base.
What state was it in? Over?
Here. And he was one of the squad leaders there for the whole encampment.
What state was that base, Bill?
Well, that was in Shepherd Air Force Base, Texas.
Oh, Texas, okay. Was he the same age as you?
No,
No,
he was
younger?
older.
Pardon?
He was like 5 years older than I was.
Oh, okay.
I was a one striper, and he was a master sergeant.
Did he have any peculiarities to him? Did he have anything that stood out about him at that age to you?
Yeah, he was always wanting to go out and play war on encampments. Like we do bivouacs in Louisiana, and the first thing he wanted to do was at night run war games.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sneak up on the other team and
right, split up in teams and attack each other.
Play hide and seek.
Now, Billy, you had mentioned to me something before. I thought I'd ask you just to talk a little bit about, which was that you saw him sobbing one day. You saw Oswald crying his eyes out. You said, right?
Yeah, we were stationed at Burlington, Iowa. My dad came to school, Madison Junior High, pulled me out of school, took me out, put me on a Ozark airline, and we flew down to, what was it, Carswell Air Force Base in Texas. This was 2 days before the Kennedy incident. While I was sitting in the hall, the same gentleman that I had met 5 years earlier was sitting on the other side of the hall, crying, sitting in a chair, crying. I was told not to move out of that chair while my dad was in a meeting with his boss, George W. Bush, who was down the hall.
Jesus.
Is that a fact?
That's a fact. 2 days prior to the Dallas incident.
So you didn't get a chance to talk to Oswald. You just saw him down at the end of the hall, but we were going on basically assumption that he's probably crying because he knew what was going to happen and he couldn't stop it.
He was definitely crying. There's no doubt he was crying.
Yeah.
He had his elbows on his knees, his head bent over, and his palms of his hands sobbing. Now,
I don't have the details as of yet. I'm always getting new information and learning new things. And recently, I was talking to someone who told me that there had been an attempt on Kennedy's life prior to the one that killed him, and that Oswald was a figure in helping to stop that assassination attempt, and that Oswald was a patriot working for the CIA, the Cubans, and the FBI. Do you know much about that?
I know nothing of that one. I've heard the same thing.
Oh, okay.
But you're going by hearsay, you know.
Yeah,
that's
right. Just hearsay.
Is I can only really say what I've seen, touched, or smelt, or heard personally myself.
So anyway, it's a very strange circle of friends to be around, and to be spirited around all these different Air Force bases as a youth, and to receive military training as a child. So, were you subjected to traumas as a child? You know, where I'm going with this is the mind control stuff. You know, were you ever mind controlled?
I'll put it this way. I would go to sleep sometimes and wake up in other places where it's so far away from where I went to sleep that I did not have an understanding of what was going on. I'd wind up in a school going to classes on something that I couldn't even remember. I mean, you'd remember some things, and then hours later you can't remember anything about the hours after that. I have pieces of my life that are just totally wiped. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
We went to Langley, Boston Catholic, a whole bunch of weird schools that you go to sleep and you just wind up in class somewhere.
Now, when you were that young and that was all going on, did you ever have the feeling that this was normal and other children were having similar experiences? I mean, what did you feel back then? Did you feel very strange about it?
No, because the kids that were there were having the same situation. We thought that was normal. It had happened to all of us so many times that we thought that was the norm.
So you were among other youth that had this sort of thing happening to them. You weren't just placed in schools or situations with other children who weren't experiencing this. You were placed in classrooms with children who were also experiencing this.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that changes things dramatically. Makes it a lot harder to question what's going on. I wouldn't recount my own life as hardly as interesting as your own, but I did have an experience when I was a child where I was moved around and was put in some weird places, but I seemed to be quite alone when I was moved around. But anyway.
I mean, even in my high school days.
Yeah. Okay. So they just kept on doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be in a class at Niceville High and go out for basketball practice or football practice. Get hit and wake up, and I'd be in Burlington, Kansas, going to school in Burlington, Kansas. And then when I graduated, I wound up graduating from 2 different high schools.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard anybody mention graduating from 2 different high schools.
Yeah, I graduated from Niceville High in Florida, and I graduated from Burlington High in Kansas.
Wow. So did you go off to college after that? As I understand, you worked for the company. Did they recruit you? I mean, I'm sure they had you, planned from the beginning. It sounds like they put you together like in a factory from when you were born, before you were born. But what was do you want to talk about that experience at all?
Well, while I was in high school, I was working on for a cleanup crew at Eglin, and that cleanup crew entailed cleaning up the messes of what was going on at C6, which is a sophisticated radar system, which turned into what we know as the space fence today.
As the what?
The space fence.
Oh, space vents?
Fence.
Space fence. Yeah.
You can't decide whether the grass is greener on this side or that side.
Okay.
Well, that's the way that was. They couldn't decide whether it was good or bad. So they burnt it to the ground back in the early 60s. And then during the Reconstruction, during the summers, I worked at that site and helping put up the new site, which is the site that everybody can see today, which is C6 Eglin Air Force Base.
And so the space fence, for what people see today at Eglin, is there a big radar center there, or something, or some kind of other higher technology that you know of that's there?
It is the highest output transmitter in the world, next to HARP Dakota.
Oh, okay. So they're putting out, I guess, microwaves.
Right. They use higher frequencies than the 28 megahertz that was used at Dakota. They use multiple frequencies at the space fence. The 140s, the 400s, the 800s. They were into the gigahertz long before cellular phones came along.
Right. It seems that the technology the military has had access to is, for every 10 years of technological advancement in the public, there seems to be 45 years of advancement in the military.
That's right. And during the late 60s, my responsibility was to maintain and tune all the pair-phased antennas underneath the roof of that building, because I was small enough that I could crawl in where you couldn't get a normal-sized man into those areas.
And what were you doing in those crawl spaces? What was the point of that?
Maintaining and tuning the pair-phased antennas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so receiving military training, you also received some education, because you have been working with frequencies and devices like these antennas and things for most of your life, no?
That's affirmative.
And there was in recent years, there was oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank. This is so funny. In my mind, it's funny. A crop circle that fairly recently, was sort of an answer to, I believe, the Voyager satellite that was sent out beyond our solar system, that had messages on it that showed what human beings look like, and I believe they had Mozart and Bach, and Mozart, and then they had an image showing radio waves, and the crop circle that was returned showed little alien beings that looked different than us. It basically was an answer. It had everything we sent out, but in an order from them. And at the bottom, it showed what kind of communications they use, and it was microwaves. And that made me kind of wonder if all these microwave antennas that are, we know they're being used to put out all these microwaves into the atmosphere for various different reasons that we can discuss. But what's your take on the possibilities that the government is using these microwave emitters to talk to beings from another world that we're either working with or monitoring?
Well, number one, I don't know that much about crap circles. I mean, I can't say they're real, and I can't say they're not real.
Okay, fair enough.
I can't put my finger on it, okay?
Fair enough.
I've seen some personally myself when I was over in England. But to me, I saw people affiliated with those circles that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't go to say that such real things don't exist.
Right.
But I haven't seen them, okay?
That's okay.
But as for communications to outer space, yeah, it's renowned that we've always tried to gain some sort of communication with outside worlds with our space shots. We've sent up spacecraft with records on them. We've sent up spacecraft with digital components that were readable to anyone who would pick them up or come in contact with them.
Right, right.
So it only goes to say, yeah, we have not only been listening through the big ears, but we have tried to make contact. I know that for a fact. I've been to the sites in California, Hawaii, where we put up sites, and that's what the intent was, to have some way to transmit communications and then sit back and listen for a repeat of that communication to come back.
Okay, so these are the multiple different antenna sites that you were a party to working on.
That's affirmative.
Now, one of those sites that you were a party to working on was the HARP site in Alaska, no?
That's affirmative. Myself and my crews went up there, and from the very beginning, from the very first antennas that were put up there, we were part of that. And erecting the antennas, putting up the transmission lines, interconnecting those lines to transmitters, although we didn't have anything to do with transmitters, except for tuning the antennas to the transmitters. And we lost several guys up there from doing so, because there were accidents that happened. You know, the transmitter would come on accidentally, someone would be up on a supporting pole, making tune-outs and barbecue time.
Really? Ouch. And we're talking dead.
We're talking fried.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, instantly, like, spark gone.
I know that there are targeted individuals, these people called TIs. I've met some. I've known some. Been close to some and had some strange personal physical feelings, but nothing what I've seen others go through. I've seen people with burns on their bodies that are unexplainable, that have weird patterns. So I know microwaves are used to target people and harm people, but it's interesting that that you're out there working on the HARP station and an accident like that would occur. We don't know much about HARP. Not much has been released. I mean, you know, there's documentaries and things to read about HARP. And HARP stands for High Altitude Auroral Research Program, no?
Affirmative.
And I've never heard anyone talk about that sort of aspect, putting the antennas together and an accident like that happening.
Well,
what's funny is that a lot of these people out there in the everyday world, they don't want to believe us conspirators trying to wake them up. They just look at us like, what the heck? You know, they think, you know, they don't want to believe it. And it's there.
There was another HARP long before the HARP that Callnote. You all do understand that.
Was it located in the same place, the original one, the one there's now?
No, it was the first HARP program took place out in the Mediterranean, the Meds, and also around Puerto Rico, down in that area. You know.
Wasn't Fuji?
No, hear what I said. Down around Jamaica, down in that area.
Oh, Jamaica.
And that was by HARP, by Lynn Bull.
What about the new ones that are mobile? They're just big old ships that look like big boys.
Why do you take me off subject?
I just had to.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Jamaica. Stay with Jamaica.
Okay, this Lynn Bull was building guns, super guns, that would shoot trajectories into what he wanted to do was lob atomic bombs into the atmosphere, upper atmosphere. And my dad was part of that. My dad did all the radio equipment, all the communication, all the teledata that was going to be interlinked with this system. During the late 50s, he moved that up to the Aleutian Islands in Alaska. And on a specific day in 1964, they fired an atomic charge into the atmosphere and the telemetry equipment that they were utilizing went haywire. And during that low-band use of telemetry, when that telemetry equipment went crazy, directly following that occasion, there was an earthquake at Anchorage, Alaska that leveled that portion of Alaska and wiped out almost all the equipment on Whiskey Bay and the Aleutian Islands. That was the last day they ever utilized HARP. What equipment was left was picked up and pushed out into the ocean to hide it.
So they dropped it in the water.
They destroyed it. They got rid of it. There was no visible thing left of that program.
So down at the bottom of the ocean, you have this body they dumped off of the ship when they allegedly killed Obama, and he's hanging out down there with his old HARP equipment. You know, who knows what he's doing down there with it?
Yeah, you believe they really dumped him.
No. I know they dumped. Well, they say they dumped a body. I don't believe it's his body. I don't believe it's the body of Bin Laden. I think Bin Laden died in 2001. But
well, I threw a football with a brick over board a ship before, and it went down.
Yeah, I bet it sure did. Just like a big bag of bullshit, right?
That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. That program was deleted. I mean, it's almost, you can look it up. It's a matter of fact that the program existed. But from that program came that earthquake that leveled Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah, wasn't it like a 9.2 or something like that?
That's right. It was one of the largest earthquakes ever reported in the Alaskan area.
What year was that? I can't recall that.
64.
Okay.
But Mr. Lynn Bull went on to his own experiments. And during the Iraq War, he was called to Iraq to build a supergun. And while he was there, I was invited. And it was due to the fact that Paula, my wife, said it wasn't a good idea. I withheld from going to Iraq to be with Mr. Lynn Bull. And it was a hefty price they were suggesting for me to come over for. No more than 2 months after the request for me to come over there, someone walked up, actually 6 people walked up, while Mr. Bull was standing on site, and they blew him away.
Shot him, killed him.
Shot him, assassinated.
Wow. Was it to suppress information that he had? Did he do or say something he shouldn't have? Why do you think they offed him?
Well, these big guns were there for a reason. They were pointed right into Israel.
Oh, okay. So you figure it was retaliation.
I call it war prevention.
Oh, okay. So they nailed him before he was able to complete the project.
That's affirmative. After the Iraq situation was over, the United States went over there and cut those big guns up in little tiny pieces, which they're still there, but they're in pieces. You understand?
Yeah, that's one of the. Actually, that's interesting. I remember that's one of the things before the whole Iraq fiasco started with George H.W. Bush back in the 90s. Before they used Kuwait as an excuse, I remember there being all this, the threat of these super guns that they allegedly had, and I guess they didn't have them, but there was information that they could make it look like they did have it, and really they didn't, right?
They did have it. That would have been what I called weapons of mass destruction.
Well, but you said they cut the guns up into little pieces and off the guy before he could complete the project.
That's affirmative.
So they didn't have them.
They did, but it was taken away. It was destroyed.
Right. They had them, but during the attack on Iraq, which it was a preemptive attack, basically without cause, there was purpose but not cause for this attack. But one of the excuses, I remember them talking about, the threat of super guns. It was just a scare tactic against the American psychology, psychiatric, the psych.
Well,
American psych.
There's a lot more to the story than that. If you ever look at the picture of that site, in the background you will see towers, many, many, many towers in the background to the east of the site. All those were HARP affiliated type electronics.
And what could they use those for? It's a rhetorical question.
Measurement, distant alignment. You have to remember that one of the ideals behind HARP was being able to pinpoint targets within inches of being true. In fact, within millimeters of being true.
Can I ask you something?
Over. Go right ahead, man.
Billy, why do they bring the story up as ARCO, Atlantic Richfield Company, as the ones that created the HARP technology in the late 80s, early 90s, and just with small experimentation, they're saying, and that then the military saw the effects and swallowed it up and took it to where it is today. Is that a made up story, or because it does?
No, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, but you say that it goes back to the 60s. I'm thinking that what they say that Atlantic Richfield Company was using the technique in the 80s on a small scale and experimenting, and then it was elaborated up in the later 80s and 90s with the Air Force, Army, military buying the contract up.
That's exactly a fact. The fact is,
okay,
with the knowledge that they had beforehand in reference to HARP, everybody had forgotten about HARP.
Okay.
So when Atlantic Richfield went out and started their little episode of trying to do tomography,
right,
and the results of that tomography came back with not only doing what they wanted to do, but it also created some minor earthquakes.
Yeah, because they could tune it. They could tune it like a piano. What frequency was gas? What frequency was oil? Et cetera, et cetera. Correct.
Exactly. And this was on low power.
Right.
You understand?
Very low.
Well, not very low, but
I'm saying it didn't take much to figure out where it was and how much was down there, et cetera.
That's exactly right.
Okay,
and of course, Eastman picked this up and started applying all the patents in reference to what had been corresponded with what Atlantic Richfield had found. And suddenly, all of a sudden, all these colleges became involved with the same thing. The information was being entered into these think tanks of coming up with information, other tests. Every time they took one step forward and found one thing out, it would devise 10 more tests of that direction.
So, let me ask this. So the operation up in Alaska, excuse me, when do you feel that system was actually in full motion? Was it around 1990?
Affirmative. The first major outputs in the early 90s were the answer to their questions. When they found that they could develop an amplification within the atmosphere, turning the atmosphere into like a humongous amplifier, they knew they had something.
Because that's when I noticed that the over the southwest area of the United States, basically San Francisco below out to Nevada, maybe a little further. There was a big circle out into the ocean, a big diameter, that was always a high pressure. For some reason, I thought for years we created a high pressure. It started something that started like the droughts area. And I couldn't imagine that's when the weather seemed to change on me. I was wondering if that was the effect of it.
Well, this is what's bringing some motion to me right now. It's the fact they dropped HAARP in May 18th, okay? HAARP Tacoma, the big mama, the power structure of the whole HAARP system, and started going for the new digital HAARP. But since that period, there has been this rotation that was normally out in the Pacific that maintained a rotation out there of like a low and a high that was punctuated in between of skating a specific funneling up into the Arctic and back. Soon as they dropped that big motion, is when we started to see hurricanes of massive size out in the Pacific. I'm sorry, I'm having a problem with my speech.
You're okay. You're sounding good. So you're saying this last May 18th of 2013? Is that? I didn't quite catch you. Are you going back to when 2000 May of just last year, sir?
That's it. And when they dropped HAARP, when they dropped space,
yes, I recall that.
The high output systems is when all this weather out in the Pacific started changing. It's also created a drift off the Arctic of a great push of pressure systems now that were regulated before. Of dropping, well, they're calling it the Arctic vortex.
Well, what about the solar flare thing that just came up the last few days that Nighthawk was talking about that came off the sun? Are they utilizing that with the system, you think, or what? To create more weird weather?
The state of New York is already declared, or the state has declared. I guess it's the governor for the state of New York has already declared a state of emergency ahead of time for this Arctic vortex ice storm they expect, right, Billy?
That's affirmative. I mean, and this is the tail end of it. You understand? This is the end of Project Ion. Well, they want to call it Winter Storm Ion. I call it Project Ion.
And you call it Project Ion, is it because are they stimulating ions in the atmosphere, or are they destroying positive ions in the atmosphere?
I don't even want to go there. That isn't something I can answer, but I'm telling you, it just seems very odd that they labeled it as such. You know, I find it just very odd.
Yeah, they tend to do things like that.
Yeah, I'm with you on the terms of odd. One thing I'm somewhat aware of is the destruction of positive ions in the atmosphere to basically cook people, to somehow be able to.
I mean,
part of 21, to lower the population.
There was supposed to have been a launch at Wallops, Virginia, today, of a craft that was supposed to be a so-called resupply craft to the Space Lab. It was shut down due to inclement weather. But on board are classified payloads. Some of it is for the Space Lab, but there are classified payloads on board that craft that was supposed to have been launched. And every launch they've had so far has resulted in some sort of weather occasion within 4 to 5 days after their launches, including their sounding rockets they have been firing off. You remember last December, they fired off 5 rockets in sequence that left trails that they were going to so-called measure. These trails contain all the components that are listed as being part of chemtrails. And to make this, they were using nanothermite in order to oxidize and expel these clouds into the upper atmosphere, above our atmosphere. You understand?
Yeah, I wonder how nanothermite would react with the human physiology. I mean, I can't imagine that being a positive reaction, but I can't say I know either.
The components of nanothermite are in all chemtrails. People don't realize that. Your barium, the aluminum oxide, all the components that are already in the air are part of nanothermite. The fuels, the acids, everything you need to make up superthermite.
So I've always suspected that the HARP system is part of a larger agenda that has to do with other components that are being used right before our eyes. It's amazing how they do these things out in the open, and so many people just continue going about their daily life, paying the Queen's tax and getting their driver's license, and et cetera, et cetera. So HARP, I assume, is interacting with the chemistry that is being dumped in the skies that we know as chemtrails.
That was part of the experimentation of the original HARP, which was to see its reaction with nano metallic components that are in our atmosphere.
Was it to see if they could control these nanoparticles somehow, or just because I know that HARP is supposed to also be able to pinpoint the brainwave, the individual brainwave of every human being has a type of brainwave. I used to remember what they were called. I can't remember now, but
beta wave.
Okay, yeah, and we each have a unique beta wave that can identify us. It can be used as an identifier. And if you have that stored in, say, a large computer system, you could program that computer system to use HARP to emit a signal or a series of signals that would be used to interact with that individual's beta wave identifier and attempt to control their behavior. No?
That was part of the experimentation. That was of the lower frequencies. Understand that now that all digital communications, all digital intercommunications is done digitally. It does not take power anymore. It just takes the right brain to recode certain applications within the digital component.
Yeah, and that's what confuses me at this point, because I'm an analog guy. You know, I'm good with hardware, with computer hardware, and also good with computer software. But as far as the digital aspect of the interaction with the human physiology, it makes more sense that they would use analog range. I don't understand how the digital range can work with the human physiology unless they're, transcoding it or something like that, you know.
Our brains are made up of masses of switching. On switch, off switch. Our brain is actually a digital device within ourselves. It's a living digital device. Our chromosomes, our DNA, are also a matter of digital coding. When you look at the DNA spiral, each chromosome in there that you look at, each one of the 22 different formats of the chromosomes, is nothing more than a digital application for each person. This is why there's been such a race to get beyond the terabit wavelength.
The what wavelength?
The terabit wavelength.
Oh, the terabit wavelength. Okay.
They want to get into frequencies that are so small that the actual wavelength matches that of a DNA chromosome link.
And therefore you could manipulate it on the fly, right? I mean, like, you could just manipulate it without, there'd be no waiting, you wouldn't have to take a subject and get them in the laboratory. So you could just walk up to them on the street, or be across the street, or miles away even, and just manipulate people. Manipulate their DNA, that is.
Just like when you walk, today, when you walk in Walmart, you're carrying a chip in your billfold. As soon as you walk in Walmart, that chip is rang. A transponder sends out a frequency or digital encoding that rings that component within that chip. That chip lights up and fires off all the information that's on that chip, and is read right there. As soon as you walk into Walmart, you pass two poles that are supposedly for anti-theft, but as you walk through the store, you look up on the poles, you will see white antennas, little tubular antennas stuck out all over the place. Each one of those is not only ringing what's in your billfold, but every item in that store has a chip on it. Every item in that store has a chip on it. And it monitors any movement of that item, who picked that item up, how much the pricing is. Everything you want to know is computerized. This was a format for what they want on higher frequencies for every person on this earth.
And it's not just monitored in the store, it's monitored after you leave, so they want to see where you take these products. Not only that, but they also are reading everything like your driver's license, your bank cards, credit cards, anything with a magnetic strip on it, right?
Absolutely. In fact, at the science thing in Vegas this last week, you could see the new ideals that are out there. I'll give you an instance. Underwear for a baby that is put on a baby monitors its temperature, its heart rate, its breathing, whether it's pottying, whether it's walking, standing up, where it's located, and what it's saying. It has an audio link on it. It is tied to a smartphone. So you can monitor that smartphone, that baby, anywhere you go with that smartphone. Guess what? A new tool for social services.
I would guess so.
Not only can the parent monitor that baby, but anybody else can monitor that baby who wants to. Not only that, it's a two-way system. You can talk back to the baby.
And certainly, yeah, and I would imagine use that frequencies could be sent to and from these devices that not just talk to the baby, but talk to the baby's I don't know what, cellular structure or something like that. That frequencies could be used, like we were talking about Schumann resonance and interference with Schumann resonance. Thanks coming up, guys. So mute out, Billy. Thanks for trying.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Ever feel as though human beings are being farmed? You know, your food is chosen by the FDA. You're told what drugs you can take, what drugs you can't take, what drugs you must take. Your productive value is harvested from you daily. Sales tax, income tax, property tax, utility bills, mortgages, interest payments. When you exercise a bit of freedom on feed or food, traveling or other matters, the farmer cracks down on you. Ever thought of leaving the farm? Learn how. Join Pat and Tammy for Leaving the Farm, Saturdays, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, Studio A. See you there, or at the feed trough.
There needs some more speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? You mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable senior network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time at freedomslips.com and Revolution Radio. Our world team members are Dennis Fetcho, John Ilias, David Dunger, Hyla Cass, MD, Melanie Bridgson, Jim Mars, Paula Harris, John Trallo, Maria Payan, Christopher Husser, DODDS, Jonathan Orchard, and me, your anchor, Dr. Robin Falco.
If you decide not to volunteer, it will not be held against you in any way.
Sounds dangerous. It is. Very dangerous. Count me in.
That's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
This incredible race of humans does have a future, and it is in the start.
I want the truth.
We are going out there to reclaim our rightful place.
Hi, this is Robert Pepino, host of the Whole Agenda Radio Show.
Who's your connection?
Starting this Friday at midnight Eastern Time, I'll set the airwaves on fire by bringing you hard-hitting guests who are not afraid to speak the truth.
I'm going to make him an offer again.
So join the Whole Agenda Radio Show on Friday nights right here on Revolution Radio.
Revolution Radio.
You don't see it, do you? How close we are to absolute chaos? The sick ones are sitting on their fat asses, eating and drink themselves into a stupor, polluting the world without a second thought while it goes down the toilet. Nobody wants to do the nasty work. You know, the shit that we all just think about. Most good citizens are just along for the ride, and they can bitch and moan and complain about everything when it doesn't work out. Get it, Cutter.
Revolution Radio, where we do the nasty work. www.freedomslips.com. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
folks. That was 16 seconds of Horn of the Rhino. I'm only allowed to play 16 seconds. I think it's 18 seconds. I don't want to go over.
Horn of the who?
Horn of the Rhino.
Arr.
Super insane, crazy, cool rock band that I really like. So, anyways, folks, our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The movement was begun 230 years ago by a small group of patriots under a tree that discovered quite by accident this conspiracy to propagandize our socially engineer us to blindly accept without reason. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices. Their intention to rule rests with the annihilation of consciousness. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. Radiation, fluoride, lead, mercury, GMOs, and chemtrails have increased since 1958. The Earth is being acclimatized. They are turning our atmosphere into their atmosphere. Please understand, they are safe as long as they are not discovered. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated. Anyways, folks, we're back on the air like we ever left, right? But the break is over, and myself, Eric Blood, GerrBeaR, and Billy Hayes are back. So, Billy, when we left, we were speaking to you about, I believe, the microchipping of the children's underwear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
I mean, it sounds ridiculous, and it sounds great to a parent, right? But the whole influx is, as innocent as it is, there is a bad part to it of that this would be available not just for a baby, but to all people.
Absolutely.
And it could happen without you even knowing it.
Well, I mean, all that stuff you mentioned about what's going on when you go to the Walmart or to any store that has those two poles you walk through, that's all happening basically without the public's knowledge. As I said earlier, they do it all out in the open. I mean, the information is there for people to know, but, unless they listen to people like you or me or somebody trying to tell them about it, otherwise, like you said, it sounds ridiculous, so either they're going to discount it as ridiculous or they're just going to not hear it. They're going to remain anesthetized and in a state of a theta state between sleep and awake and not even notice these things.
I mean, well, look at it this way. We all know how much theft goes on within Walmart. We stand there every day and watch money walk out the door. Yet they don't do a thing about it, and they are seeing it. It's on camera. That the electronics is there to monitor everything in that store. But they don't arrest nobody.
Oh, you're talking about people stealing the things that have the chips on them. So
right.
So obviously they know people are stealing things because these things are all chipped. So
they're all chipped. They're on security cameras everywhere. There's not an inch in a super Walmart store that is not under surveillance. Not only that, but if you drive around for a mile around every Walmart store there is, you'll see the first evidence of the cams at stoplights. Not only do they monitor you in the store, they monitor you after you leave the store. Everybody thinks the government is doing all this. Well, guess what? How do you think Walmart's got so big in the first place? Where do you think all that money came from?
Well, the government is basically nothing more than a corporation now. It's actually listed on Dun & Bradstreet as a corporation for profit, a private corporation for profit only. And you were mentioning in a conversation we had before, to get really weird, to tell people something really strange about some sort of underground Walmart base.
Oh, yeah. Down in Arkansas, right after Arkansas, I forget Highway 61, I think it's on. Right at the Missouri-Arkansas border. In fact, what's his name? Jesse Ventura and his son went down there and did a whole program on it, on the super house down there.
Right, actually, I still haven't seen that. I got to watch that.
I've seen it. It's pretty awesome. It does look like a big area with warehouse. It's like a warehouse thing, but it's big and open up. Was that made by the machines that they use it for the tunneling? I don't know.
I don't know. I know it exists because, after seeing the program, we went down there and drove through the tunneling down there, and you can drive in. There's no problem. You can drive into the first portions of the tunnel, the parking areas and stuff, and you'll drive around for hours down there.
Did you see any activity?
No, just parked cars.
There's nobody walking around.
Never saw a single person. Wow. But at the same token, there are areas where you can't go through. You can see that there are steel doors that are sliding doors, and you could go up and tap on them, and you can't hear an echo or nothing. I mean, it's like they are solid. It's like they are part of the mountain,
But there's no guard or anything there. It's all probably just they got to have a code to get in, or their eyes or something. There's no people around those gates, is what I'm saying.
There's no people around there. No, there's no sign that says no entry.
Wow.
I mean, it's so elaborate down there. I mean, it's so you just can't imagine. You drive for miles and miles and miles of parked cars.
Eric, doesn't your city have cams on intersections, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, there are cams here. I'm not so aware as to. I mean, I'm sure those signals are going somewhere, but I don't know anybody personally out here who's actually received any sort of citation in the mail. And again, I think that's just another excuse. The excuse is these cameras are up to keep you safe. These cameras are up to monitor traffic. I'm sure it's used for that, but I don't know anybody who's received any citations or fines or notifications in the mail due to these cameras. I believe they're just facial recognition cameras, that they're reading people's body language, that they're part of an antenna system. We've actually seen some very strange antennas put up around town, too.
Well, my city, they're everywhere. They're thorough through the whole city.
Well, you're in the belly of the beast, man. You're out in Nevada.
But you know what? My vehicle one time a few years back was smoking. And I was almost home, and it was smoking. It was acting up. I knew it was sick. And I got a letter from the DMV, and I remember when it was smoking, I was at an intersection. And I was looking at that cam, and I'm going, man, I bet they're watching me right now. And I got a letter from the DMV saying, your vehicle was reported, blah, 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 blah. And we hope you get it fixed. Well, I managed it by then and did sweat it. So, but yeah, it's a trip. I got to help somebody out. I got to drop for a minute. You guys, I'll be right back. Thank you.
Well, anyway.
Boo-boo out the door. Boo-boo out the door.